But we want to give everybody a chance to ask questions of Brandon. And I will now entertain the first question.
Brandon, I have a 15-part question.
Outstanding.
Now, actually, you had mentioned from the platform not too long ago that you do not like confrontation. So I'm wondering what you're doing to overcome that, because that will be a part of, not that we're not wonderful people here, but all families have confrontation.
Are you saying that in a family as large as this one, there might be a disagreement at some point or another? Actually, one of the things that I've spent a lot of time doing is working with my own personal stuff to deal with confrontation. Because for those of you that know the Enneagram, that do the Enneagram as the personality test, where I fall at on that is I'm a peacemaker. And one of the habits of being a peacemaker is that you are terrified of confrontation because you want to make everybody happy and you want everybody to be in a space of joy. So what I've started working on is there's a book called Crucial Conversations. And what that book deals with is how you move through conflict, how you have difficult, crucial conversations with people. So that was one piece that I've spent a lot of time working on, is that when I have to have that difficult conversation that might lead to some confrontation, is just knowing that whatever comes back out of that towards me isn't always about me, and I can't take it personally, and I have to maintain that space of, these are the facts, this is what's going on. You know, the bottom line may be that you really, really want to put a live donkey in the sanctuary for, I see Jane looking at me like, donkey? But we need to find a diaper for the donkey first, and that may upset you because there was no diaper in the manger, but the fact is we have to keep our sanctuary clean. So it's just maintaining that, and the truth of the matter is conflict is always something that's going to kind of make my stomach nervous because that's my personality type. But knowing where that comes from and knowing how I deal with it helps me to be able to move through those conflict times.
Brandon, this is the third minister search and probably the 8th or 9th minister questionnaire that I've been to. So it's only fair I ask the same question that I have 9 times. We just finished an election cycle. What is your view of the minister's role in politics?
In politics, like generally out in the world, from the pulpit, it's my personal belief that that's not really a message that I should be giving out to you from the pulpit. What I should be doing from the pulpit as a lead minister is giving you all of the tools that you need to take your political decisions within and discern what to do. I have very clear political values and things that I believe and things that I hold true, and you're not going to hear me telling you those from the platform. What you're going to hear me doing is speaking about ways that you can get a greater understanding of God in your life and become more in touch with that presence. And then what I know to be true is as you become in touch with that presence, the presence will guide you in making the decisions that you need to make. But I'm not going to tell anybody how they should vote, what they should think, whether or not gay marriage should or shouldn't happen. I'm not going to do that. That's your personal political choice.
Okay, Brandon. Well, my question is that you're a pretty new ministerial, and you just graduated from ministerial school. Thank you. And I guess my question is, do you think that you have the experience to be a senior minister of a church of this size?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure, I think that's a great and it's a fair question. What I would say is that the short answer is yes, I believe I do. And the reason why I feel like I do is because not only have I grown up in a church of this size, but I've spent 7 years working at this church. So I have 7 years of experience in working in a church of this size. I think it's no secret to those of you that were here when I started as the Youth and Family Ministry Director that program wasn't in the best of shape. when I took over in that role. And so I spent a lot of time developing, working on that program, working with Patricia and learning what it means to work in big church. So I would say that even though I may not have the 7 years of experience as a minister, as an ordained minister, I do have the experience in a community of this size and know what it means to work with it, and know what it means to balance all of the aspects. There's a lot of moving parts here. And that's where a lot of my experience comes in, is working with those moving parts in this community.
Hi Brandon, I'm over here. This is your question from your resident MBA. Tell me about your experience managing $1 million budgets.
Well, hopefully we'll get to our huge $1 million revenue at least here. A lot of my experience had come in managing, you know about my experience in managing youth and family ministry and that operation. But prior to that, I worked at Union Station at Science City. And I worked down, it was a lot of fun to work down there. It was a great place. But what they had me doing for them was I managed their outreach programs. Each one of our facilitators took on a different area. We had somebody that did demos, we had somebody that did school groups, and they had me managing the outreach programs. And so what that meant was that I had to balance the budget that they had given us for the outreach programs and the materials with the cost of sending somebody out and making sure that it was actually beneficial. Union Station actually made more of their connections through outreach programs than they did through kids coming down to Science City. So it was managing that staff, it was scheduling that staff, it was working with those pieces. Now, do I still have business things to learn? Absolutely I do. I certainly have things I need to learn about the ins and outs of business detail that I don't know yet. I'll learn them, I know I'll learn them, and I've committed to doing what I need to do to grow in that understanding. But a lot of my experience comes from the nonprofit world. And in that nonprofit world, as much as I would have liked to go out and buy 2 gallons of glue for the children at Science City, I was told we can't afford it. So you kind of had to find ways to work around the limits that happen in nonprofit. And so I do have a fair amount of experience doing that.
Hi, Brandon.
There. Sometimes you just hear the voice.
What are your plans increasing membership, and especially membership under 40?
Certainly. I think it's a vital part of the future of where this ministry is going, is to increase the membership at that level. And there are a lot of things that you can do to help draw attention to the millennial generation, that 30 to 20-year-old young family generation. A few things that they want, though, that they're looking for, and one of those things is they're looking for fun. Now I want you to understand that the services that we put on right now are a lot of fun. And a lot of times what you'll hear is, well, how can something be fun and sacred? I don't know when we decided that the sacred had to be mundane and boring. I don't know who made that up, but it doesn't have to be. And so if you're putting on fun services that are engaging to that generation, they're going to come. Now, our services here are phenomenal. We have a wonderful spiritual base. We have a wonderful music program. The one area that I see we could really grow into is in the fun community activities that we put out. Fun sorts of things to get people involved in. On Halloween, we do a trunk or treat in our lobby, and we invite the community around us to come and engage with us. We do spring events where we have parties and things going on. What that generation is really looking for is a community where they can connect, they can have fun, and they can grow into that community. And so if we start doing things that are active and fun and outreach programs that allow them to go out and make a difference, they're going to come to us. You know, maybe there's a Sunday in the spring, not now, because I wouldn't want to be out there, but we take yard games, we put them outside, and we don't do hospitality down here. We do it out on the front lawn, playing beanbag tosses and ladder golf. And people drive by and see that and go, wow, doesn't that look fun? Let's go join them. And as they come in and join us, the community grows and it grows and it grows.
As we answer the rest of the questions, as you ask your question, we'll ask you to stand so Brandon can see who he's talking to.
Hi, Brandon.
Hi, Lois.
You started to address this already, but I would think you actually have an advantage with having been here and going up here to, what is your vision? You started to speak about families, but what is your vision for this church? What do you as a leader bring to that vision?
The first thing I would say I bring to that vision is just the truth that there's no limits to what we can create here at Unity Church of Overland Park. I've been here and seen the times when this church was phenomenal and exploding at the seams, and I've seen times where it wasn't. But what I think, as far as creating a vision, what I would actually really want to do more than anything else is hear what all of your visions are. Now, I know we've done the conscious conversations and we have mountains and mountains of data, and I would read that data and I would use that to help me inform what we're going to do, but I also want to hear from you individually. You know, I know this is a community, we want a vibrant family community. We want family activities, family events going on. And so that's the direction I would start moving us towards, but that's not going to happen with just me by myself. I need each and every one of you to help me in manifesting that vision. I see this as a place that's eventually so full of people that in 5 to 10 years we're looking for another sanctuary because we can't fit in this building anymore. And I know that when we hold to those visions, those are the things that manifest. And it takes all of us. It's not just me, it's not just the board, it's not just the staff. Every one of us has to have a part in that.
Hi Brandon, Rob Jones.
Hi Rob.
Question for you. You gave a wonderful message today and you talked about challenge. I'd like to hear, what do you think is the largest challenge facing the church? And as senior minister, what would you do to address that challenge?
I think probably one of the largest challenges it's facing, not just this community, but I would say Unity in general, is that we have a wonderfully passionate message for how you can change your life, and we do a horrible job of letting people know what happens at these churches. And so that's what's got to change. That's what we have to really work at changing. And so there's a few things that I would do to change that. One is we're going to get more visible in the community around us. We're going to do outreach programs that allow you to not just give individually, but to actually go out in the community and work with people if that's what you want to do. We'll have events in our parking lot, in our front of our lawn. People drive by and see it and they go, look at what a vibrant community is going on there. And they want to come in. So we're doing those sorts of things to let people know physically that we're here. They're seeing activity going on in the church. You can't discount the popularity of Facebook and social messaging and all of that. So we've got to have a great presence on that. And first and foremost, we need me as the leader standing in front of it saying, here we are, let's go and let's do this. Because it's also my belief that if you have a passionate leader pulling you along with them, the community is going to grow with you.
Hi, Brandon. My question dovetails on that. How will you go about building our spiritual ways so that we are able to sustain our outreach and our programs when they come in?
Yeah, so as we build the spiritual level, there are a couple of ways that can happen, but it's got to be more than just Sunday morning. Because it's great to hear an inspiring message on Sunday morning, but it's got to go beyond that. So we've got to figure out ways as a community to really make Unity principles a part of our lives. One of the ways I did that this morning when I challenged you to meditate with me. I would like to see more of those sorts of challenges for us to, and more of that building a community in and amongst ourselves. We already do one fall faith a year, and that's phenomenal. But we've got to find other ways to continue that spiritual development, that spiritual growth beyond just Sunday morning. And that's an area, again, I've got ideas. I've got things that I think we could do, the different services, different meditations, different ways of making it focused, not just on fun and fun things we can do, but on spirituality as well. But I need all of you to share your ideas with me as well. Because part of what I believe about being a leader is that it's my job to take your ideas that you're giving to me and to look at them and go, okay, how does this line up with our mission, our vision, and our values? Does this fit with who we are here at Unity Church of Overland Park? And if it fits, let's move forward and do it. Let's find a leader and let's get going. Because ultimately what we need to do is grow and expand our consciousness. And as we grow our consciousness, it's going to attract the rest of them to us.
Brandon, I'm Peg Newton. I had, I've been here through 4 senior ministers, and I feel like some of them when they started were not phenomenal speakers, and some of them had lacking in other areas, but most of them when they left us much more prepared than when they came to us. A lot of ways I feel like we're a training ground for ministers. But you know what? I don't want to do this again in 5 or 10 years. I just don't. I want to guarantee from you that you're going to be here a while. You're going to raise this church. Hawaii is not calling you.
What I can tell you, Peggy, is that that to me, that's one of the biggest advantages of my youth and of being young. Is that if I'm the one that's fortunate enough to be selected to be the senior minister here, I'll be here in 25 years, not just watching that time, but I'll be the one to open the time capsule we sealed just a few nights ago. I'm here to help grow and be a part of this church. This church is my home. It's been that way my whole life. As long as this would maintain a happy marriage and the board's happy with me and I'm happy with the board, I'm not going anywhere.
I'll go to Hawaii.
Okay. All right, my question is going to segue into a lot of things you've said already today. I want a senior minister that is passionate and on fire for this church. I hear you saying in the future, if we have, games on the front lawn, if we can do this. You've been here 7 years. The definition of insanity is to do the same thing over and over and expect different results. What have you done in the last 7 years to grow this community? And looking around the room, can you say there's anybody here that you're responsible for having brought to the church or introduced the church who is now a member? Because if we're going to grow this church, I think that future results are going to be very, very vital to your past results. So in the last 7 years, how have you grown our community? And are you on fire and passionate about this church?
Well, first of all, yes, I'm absolutely on fire about this church. This church is my home. It has been my home. And I want nothing more than to see this place just explode and succeed. Over the course of the last 7 years, what I would say is the one area that I can point to that I've said we have grown this community is in our youth and family program.
Yes.
And it's in the way that program has continued to expand and grow. When I first started and I met with Reverend Patricia, she told me that her dream for YFM at this church was to have a youth and family ministry program where the children dragged their parents to church. They were so excited to be here. And since that time, I can think of a few people that have come up to me and have said, we wouldn't be here every Sunday if it wasn't for the youth and family ministry program. Every Sunday, my kids said, we got to go to church. We have to be here. And then when they ask their kids why, what is it about YFM that makes you want to be here? What the kids tell them is that it's a place where I can be myself. I can be whoever it is that I am, and I know I'm not going to get judged. And their mom would go on and ask them, well, but can't you do that at school? And it's not like I can in Unity Church of Overland Park. And so what I would want to do is to just expand that vision to our larger ministry. I would want this entire ministry to be a place where you could come and be who you are and know that we're going to honor you and respect you as the Christ that you are. And I would see that continuing to grow and expand in this ministry. Now, as far as people that I have brought into the church, I'm not sure, there may be some out here. There's one right there.
4 kids.
Yeah, Julie with 4 kids has. I also know I've talked with our wedding coordinator, Glenna. There's a few people that I've married here. And what Glenna does is she invites them to come and hear the minister speak. And that's going to marry them. And there are several that now attend here on a regular basis after booking a wedding, having no idea what Unity was. They came, they saw me, and now they're coming on a more regular basis.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, Brandon. All I can say is that your family is such a tremendous blessing to my life. And the last few weeks as I've prayed for the ministers that are coming in, every time I pray for you, there's two men that come to my mind. One of them is David, one of them is Samuel. They were both very, very young when God chose them for some very important positions. David tried to put on some other people's armor that didn't fit him, and it didn't work. Samuel went on to be a beautiful, beautiful prophet and leader of God's people. All I can say is we can't judge people by their age. God forbid, I'm 69, and I still do a lot of things that a lot of people my age don't do. But I think that it's the spirit within the person that we look at. And every time I see you, I see the beauty of Christ that lives within you, and the beauty of your family, the little sweet baby that God has blessed you with. And all I can say, if this is God's will for you, it will be done. God bless you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Brandon, the ministerial position here at Unity is a very demanding position. CEO, it's going to demand a lot of your time, a lot of energy, and you have a relatively new family with a new baby, which is also very demanding, as it demands a lot of your time and energy. So how would you balance those two?
It's a great question. First of all, I'm very fortunate in the fact that I have what I consider to be the sweetest baby ever. I may be biased. But I also have a wonderful partner. And Sarah is very, very supportive of me and my time. It's a very busy position, and it's going to take a lot of my time and a lot of my effort. I would also say that as this community continues to grow into a community-based church, and into a church where it's not just me as senior minister that has a stake in what's going on, but all of you, some of that burden gets spread out because we're all working together to build Unity Church of Overland Park. Now, it's going to change on a situation-by-situation basis. Clearly, Fall Faith is a very busy time at this church, and I'm probably going to be up here most every night of the week during Fall Faith. That's just the way it works. But there's also times where it's not as busy. And for me, it's about finding the joy and the balance in those times where it's not as busy, knowing that a month or two down the road, I'm going to be here 80 hours a week. But right now, for this month, I can take a little bit more time with my family. It was no different than when I was working with our summer camps. Kelly and I know during the summer that every other week we're going to be up here Monday through Wednesday night, and for the theater camp, Monday through Friday night. And there's still, Sunday morning is still going to come, whether we did camp that week or not. And so we're still having to plan for Sunday morning. But what we also know is come August 1st, we're going to get a little bit of a break before it's time to move into other things. So it's finding the balance in those breaks.
Hey, Brandon. I'm feeling curious about what the situation is in your life, in your relationship with God and your call for if you're not chosen here, will you stay as youth and family minister? I don't expect you to have a crystal ball, but what's your conversation going on right now around your call and how to serve as a minister? And before I release that question, I just want to say that what I heard you say earlier about the skills that you're growing into, I've deeply become aware of how it's different when you get further away from this neighborhood, and that here you have a lot of support. Not only in Overland Park, but with Unity Worldwide Ministries close, and with Unity Institute right down the road, your classmates that are now teaching there. I was aware of that as you were speaking, and I imagine that I'm thinking, yearning, missing that already, and you would have that. But tell me a little bit about your call.
Yeah, I think my call has always been to be a minister, a lead minister, a senior minister in a community. no matter where that community is. You know, would I go back to being the youth and family ministry director if I wasn't hired? Well, certainly. I mean, I'm not going to, you know, stomp off in a fit of rage and quit and say, how dare they, and you know, I wouldn't do anything like that. But that being said, I'm very clear that becoming a senior minister is what's mine to do. Now, if that happens here, that would be wonderful, because, as I said, this is my home and this is what I want to see happen. But I've also learned I have to kind of release that to God, and it's kind of God's path that guides me where I need to go next. So if I wasn't to be selected, would I eventually leave? Yes, yeah, I would. You know, this congregation supported me in going through ministerial school. I received tithes from this church to help pay my tuition. And I did not spend your money to not lead a church in the unity movement. And so I don't know, you know, there's no timetable on it. I don't know, it would have to be the right and perfect church for me before I would leave, but if that church opens up, then yes, yeah, I would go.
Brandon, Donna and I, pardon me, own a small business we have run for about 19 years, and we learned through experience, because prior to that, it was with IBM and companies like that, but we learned that the greatest source of business is repeat and referral business, which means our existing customers have to refer people. I'm reminded of that the other day. A company going back to about 1997, I think they were number 400 in our customer list, came back and had some work to do, and I happened to talk to him, and he said, well, I just haven't needed it. I'd hate to guess how many people have gone through this church, through Mary, and all the subsequent ministers that we started when Mary was here. What are we doing, or what can we do to get those people to give us another opportunity? And what can we do to generate those of us that are here to refer more people? Because we obviously aren't.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing to help with that is to have each and every one of you doing those personal referrals. To say, hey, we've got an awesome speaker, and this is the message that they're going to come with me and hear it. Because like you said, it's personal testimony that's going to bring people to the community. The other thing that I would love to see us do in this church is to make this building as accessible to anybody and everybody that wants to walk in these doors as possible. And that means beyond Sunday morning. We have to give people as many opportunities as possible to walk through the doors of Unity Church of Overland Park. And a lot of those may not happen on Sunday morning. When I was in school, I did an internship with Unity Temple on the Plaza. And what they told me is that the majority of their new members don't come in first for Sunday morning. They come in for a weekly meditation. They come in for something at the Buddhist Center. They come in for another activity, a 12-step meeting. And then they kind of look around and go, oh, well, this is a little bit different than I thought it was. And they'll start coming on Sunday mornings then at that point. So I would say there's two things we need to do. The first is each one of us should be the voice of Unity Church of Overland Park. We should be out there telling people what a great community we have, and we want them to be a part of it. And the other thing we need to do is find as many opportunities as possible to bring people through these doors on Sunday morning or during the week or whenever. But we need to make it accessible for them.
Let me ask a question towards that end. YFM is growing and doing better than it has in a long, long time. We have a lot of students who graduate and never come back. How can we reverse that?
By making this an entirely cohesive community. By making this someplace where those YOUers that are getting ready to graduate know that this is their home. Statistically, this is not just a Unity issue. This happens across all denominations. The kids are very much into what's happening at the church, and then they graduate and they move away and they go to college and they kind of start to waver a little bit in going to church until they have kids. And then when they have their kids, it's, well, I want them to have the same experience I had, so they bring them into church. So what we have to do is increase in those sorts of fun activities that we're offering for the YOU and the young adults to come and just play. I mentioned when I was speaking with the board yesterday that I think this church does an amazing job of offering spiritual services on Sunday morning. This church has an amazing music program. The one place that I feel we're lacking right now is in the fun. It's in the family activities. These potlucks are phenomenal. I mean, it's great that you're getting to grill me, but just the opportunity that you've had to sit here in community and share questions. When I look at churches that are exploding with the 20 to 30 crowd, they're doing two things. First of all, they have a youthful minister. They have a youthful minister that when those people come in, they can look up and go, you know what? There's somebody like me standing up there on that stage, and so I feel like he's or she is speaking to me. The other thing they're doing is they're making the services fun, they're making the before and after services fun, and they're feeding people. And they're giving them the opportunity to come together in community. Now, again, let me say, this is not something that I can do by myself. This is not something the staff can do by themselves or the board can do by themselves. This is something we all have to do together. And that's something that I would be honored to get to lead all of us in bringing that element back.
Brandon, Jay Woods. We've spoken a lot and heard a lot of ways in which we can do things differently to attract a more youthful congregation. I have a 30-year experience in this neighborhood by having started at the very church that we left to come here. And I was an Episcopalian at St. Thomas Aquinas, St. Thomas, the Apostle. And at one point they decided to move their church building out farther south, and they've had a growing, thriving community since then. Part of the reason is because demographics play a great part in why churches grow or don't grow. Part of the demographics that are happening here is these communities are getting older and older, as witnessed by the congregation that lives close by. And more people who have younger families are buying homes farther south. However, this is a community that's beginning to turn over. So I would offer to you a consideration to find out the demographic progress that this particular area is having in new families coming into here, because that could be an area that we're really not aware of yet, and to institute all these wonderful ideas could be for naught if it's still an older community, because the people aren't going to drive 15, 20 miles to get here and bring their families when they've got a church around the corner.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's an important part of all of what we're considering is who is it that we're speaking to. And what I would also say to that is that there are apartment complexes right down here behind us at 435 in Antioch. And those apartment complexes are loaded with children. I know it because I watch them walk home every day. And to reach out to those complexes and to let them know we're here and we're within walking distance and to find out what they need, because you're exactly right. I can have the greatest idea in the world, and if the people in this room don't want it and the community around us doesn't want it, who cares? It's a waste of our time and our effort and our resources. So that's going to be an important part of going forward as a church, is learning what we want in this community and around us.
Cindy Spear. I have a couple of different questions. I was digging around not long ago in some of our old history, and in the last 10 or 15 years we've had at least 3 different big fancy evaluations and writing on the wall and no follow-up, and it's very discouraging, I think. If we're going to have all these meetings and people are telling us what they want, why aren't we following through? And the other thing is, how many ministers do you think we need to have on staff? I see our finances going more and more into debt, and I'm concerned about that.
Certainly. Well, I think the first thing that we need to do is this congregation has made it very clear what you want to do. where you want to grow. You've made it very clear what your vision is. I know the board of directors has begun working on their 4 Pillars initiative, which came out of a lot of that stuff. But what I need to do as a leader for this community is sit down and look at all of that data and look at how it fits and what we can do. And then it's time to start doing it. It's time. How are you going to do that? The first thing I have to do is discern what's best for the community. And I'm going to do that through, I know we've gone over that, but discern for me personally, because it's a mountain of data. And discern where I would want to go. We're not going to wait. We don't need to wait. There's no need to sit and wait and go, okay, well now I've decided that we need to start an alternative service because I hear the community wants an alternative service. So I want to bring in a meeting of all of these people to determine how best to begin starting an alternative service. That's where we've gotten bogged down in the past, is getting spun around in, okay, well let's determine how to best do this. What I would want to do is say, okay, I've looked at this data, this is what the community wants, we want more outreach, so I'm going to go to Rachel, I'm going to go to Larry, I'm going to go to you, I'm going to go to Brenda and Kelly, and we're going to sit down and we're going to pick outreach programs together that we can present to the community as a whole, and we're going to go. Because we don't need to sit and wait and wonder and question. Now, as to the finances of the community and how many ministers that I feel like we should have here, I'm comfortable with the 3 ministers that we have, with having 3 ministers here. The finances are something that need to be improved. We've got to grow financially here. I'm of the Field of Dreams school of economics. And my belief is that if we build it, people will start coming. I know we live in an abundant universe. I know that God is going to provide for this community. And we can't just sit around on our affirmations and hope. Now, if we don't take that data and we continue to not do anything with it, then the people that were already here are going to continue leaving because, exactly like you said, they're going to get frustrated. We don't need to do another big visioning session. We've had that. We know what it is. I think the most important question for us to ask, and one I would want to ask starting off, is does the mission and vision that we created 5 years ago still serve who we are today? The answer may be yes. It very well could be yes. I don't know. But the mission and vision is what's going to guide this community in its future. And so I think it's time to ask the question, is this still who we want to be? And once we're clear on that, it becomes very clear what we can add, when we can add it, and how we can add it. And then the only thing at that point I'm looking for is a leader that's sitting out here that's willing to say, yeah, I'll take that on. I'll find somebody to go start planning an alternative service. I'll find somebody to go start planning this outreach program. Because this church is ready to explode, it's ready to go, and we've got to do that. I think we also have to look financially at hard and fast ways to bring in income. And whether that's through charging a fee for a workshop instead of a love offering, or that's through exploring ways to rent facilities out to other people. There are hard and fast ways that will bring in definite income, and then the other side of that belief is that as we grow and build this into a place that's truly making a difference in the world, we're going to draw to us people that want the same thing, and they'll give from their heart.
Okay, your board of directors, I'll use the word grilled this gentleman yesterday for 4 hours.
In a very loving way.
Oh, yes. We also continued to ask questions at dinner last night, and he then put on what I think you'll agree was a pretty darn good sermon today. And so if I were he, I'd be on the stool already. But I'd like to hold it to 2 or 3 more questions. And then at the same time, Evelyn, where are you? She's walking around with a basket to take your forms. If you have some that you haven't put in yet, raise them up and she'll come get them.
Larry Gordon. I just have a real simple question. We talked about you bringing along the youth and the parents with it and such. And then we talked about increasing those people who are under 40 coming to this church. And so my question is one that you've heard before, Will we ever expect to see you on the platform in jeans and no tie?
You know, Larry, I keep telling you that when I don't wear the jeans, and I don't see you. It was funny, I did on Rock and Roll Sunday. I walked in, I'm in jeans and my t-shirt and the shirt over it, and finally I'm going to be able to go up and go, look, Larry, I can do this. No, Larry. You know, I think the suit and the tie and all of that, it isn't always necessary. It's not something that we need to see every Sunday. I believe you've seen me. You all know I'm capable of putting on a suit and tie if need be. There are certain events that I believe demand the sort of respect that you just dress up for. On our 40th anniversary celebration, that's one of those that you just dress up for. A candidate weekend is something that you just dress up for. But there are also services where it may be appropriate for me to not wear the tie and the jacket and just have a nice button-up shirt on. There are services it may be appropriate for me to wear jeans and a Grateful Dead t-shirt. It's going to depend on the service. I think the theme of the service has to dictate how you show up for it.
Brandon.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Barb Filer. I really don't have a question. I just want to throw this in because it is my feeling very strongly that one of the reasons that we are falling behind in finances and attendance and everything is because we have been in limbo for so long. We need a leader, and but my vote is really for you. I think a young family man is what this church needs.
Thank you. What I will say is that statistically, what research into church growth shows is that people will come to a church where the leadership matches them. And so as we're trying to draw out from the community, when somebody walks in and they see a youthful person with a young family on the stage, they go, oh, this is a community that's important to me. Now, I think one of the advantages that I give to you as a leader is that I have that physical appearance, but I think not just today, but over the course of the last year, you've gotten to hear me speak quite a bit. And I think that the message that I give is one that appeals across all generations. So a lot of times what happens is you bring in a young minister and they try turning it into a young church, and then you've got an electronic DJ up on the stage with the loud thumping music, and then a rock band takes over, and fog and smoke and lights and lasers. And that's great, but that's not going to appeal to everybody. And it's important we continue to appeal to everybody.
Hi, I'm Barbara Ginsel. I came to this church originally because some friends encouraged me to come, but I originally started in Unity for the spiritual leadership that Unity brought to me, and I was over at the temple, and there wasn't much about it except spiritual leadership at that time. So to me, there are two almost not the same parts of a church. One is the spiritual leadership, and the other is the social activities. So when you come to church to meet with friends and to become friends, you're meeting with people with whom you have similar spiritual beliefs and ideals, and where you're working on your own growth. To me, it requires a bit of both, and I'm not sure that I love it when we leave one out for the other. But to incorporate them both somehow is tricky. And I'm not sure if that's a question, but if you have a solution for that, go for it.
Yeah. Well, it is. It is a tricky thing, and it's something that I think our YOU does very, very well. Because what they do is when they plan an event, like we're going to go to Worlds of Fun, the kids let their friends know that this isn't a real spiritual activity. We're not going to sit and meditate and pray. We're going to have fun. But what happens is as they have those conversations amongst the group, they get that spiritual element. So it's not we're all going to sit down and we're going to preach at you and we're going to convert you and we're going to come at you that. But people are invited into a fun atmosphere where spiritual conversation begins to take place. And so what I would say is that it's incumbent on, certainly on me as the leader, to go table to table and to talk with people and to engage in spiritual questions, be available to answer spiritual questions. But it's incumbent on everybody that's sitting around that table to have those sorts of discussions with people. It's a balance. It's a balance of both. And you have to kind of go all the way across that spectrum to meet everybody's needs. Because if you just go to one or the other, you're going to be cutting out one group or the other group. And so it's kind of a balance between the two. And this church does theology very well. We really do. And it can continue to grow. I see it continuing to grow. And continuing to find those brief moments when you're in conversation with somebody and they say, you know, I'm just really down right now. And you can say, oh, that's okay. We all have times when we're down. And I'll hold a higher space for you. I'll hold the consciousness for you that you'll be up again very soon. So I'm here to lead you. I'm here to guide you. I'm here to direct you. But I can only push you so far. We all have to build this together.
Hi, Brandon. I have a quick question that kind of piggybacks on some of the other questions that have come, but I know of younger students that go off to college, you know, maybe a web presence, and I know we have our lessons on the web, and I know of friends my age and slightly younger that, you know, they got involved in their church with the web presence and watching it. What are your thoughts on that? What do you see as marketing to get what we already have out there more and expand on that?
Yeah, so it's very, very important to have a presence online, because what we're starting to learn is that most people will go to a website and look at a church at least 3 times before they even step foot in the door. It's great that we post our videos online, but the issue that comes up when you post those videos and they're the day after and they've been edited is people are starting to wonder, what are they hiding? Because this is an edited video. So what have they changed? What have they not done? Or what are they not showing us? So I think live streaming is very, very important, that we move towards a live streaming. Now, that being said, there is no point in live streaming if we can't do it well. And so what that's going to take is going to take us analyzing, you know, what is going to be the cost of adding an additional camera. I didn't realize this until I was talking with Tara Dale a few weeks ago, and then I went and watched a TV show and counted. Did you know the camera changes angles every 10 seconds in a TV show? Every 10 seconds that camera switches to a new angle. I had no idea until I sat there and started counting. Most of the time I didn't even make it to 10. And so our mind has been shifted into the point where if it's a static one-shot camera angle, we get bored. So it almost takes 2 cameras for live streaming, and that has to keep switching. It also takes either a dedicated core group of volunteers that know how to operate the technology and operate it really, really well, or it takes somebody that's receiving a little bit of payment for what they're doing. It takes a professional to do it. So there's all sorts of various little pieces to live streaming, but moving towards live streaming is very important for this community.
Brandon, another question for you. So I believe you have a very good platform presence, and I enjoy your messages very much. I appreciate those. But I have a question for you. It's now Sunday 23. You've done 22 Sundays in a row. You're preparing for the next lesson. So what is your energy level going to be like, and you're going to be able to handle number 23 after you've done 22 in a row?
I'd be able to handle 23, 24, and 25. So I think speaking every Sunday morning is something that is just, it's a passion of mine. I absolutely love to do it. The thing that I have to, and I think this is just a human thing that everybody would wonder. In fact, I was talking with Sarah about this last night. We said, now, would you run out of ideas eventually? Maybe, I don't know. I do know that this staff, this team, we have a phenomenal creative team. And what I would see myself doing, in the past we did the yearly themes, we worked a year out, we had the year of I Am, and the year of discovering our power. What I would see myself doing is working quarterly with the staff to develop sort of a theme and an idea of where we wanted to go. Because to me, what quarterly does is it allows us to move with spirit. So if something happens in the world around us, we can move our theme and address it. I would rely very heavily on the staff to help me identify themes that are out in this community. Not that I'm not capable of coming up with those on my own, but we're wanting to build a community ministry here. And if we're wanting to build a community ministry, that's not very community focused if I come in and it's the Brandon show. And we're always doing what I want to do. And so I need to hear from the rest of the staff what they would like to, and then we'll unfold it and we'll make it work. Sometimes it amazes me that the message always comes, but it always does. And that's through the prayer and the silence and spending time connecting with God, but it always comes.
I just have one question about the Spiritual Cafe. I thought it was really successful. Are we going to see that on Friday night? Because at one time Alice had a service on Friday night, and it was kind of an alternative thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember Fabulous Friday. It was a great service. I think Spiritual Cafe, there was a lot of good about Spiritual Cafe, and there were a lot of things about Spiritual Cafe that needed to change. Mainly to me it was that it was Wednesday night. I think now whether we would do something on a Friday or a Saturday night, either one, I know what a lot of communities have found success with is doing like a 6 o'clock on Saturday night. It's a little bit alternative, but it's also, some of them actually use it as a chance to run through what they're doing on Sunday mornings. And they invite people to come in. This is another part of bringing in that young millennial 20 and 30 age. They don't want to wake up early mornings on Sunday, especially after they've spent all night down in the Power and Light District on Saturday night. But what they will do is they'll come to a 6 o'clock on Saturday service, because the service starts at 6, we're done around 7 o'clock. Nobody goes out before 9, 9:30, 10 o'clock anyway.
I do.
Well, I've gotten to the point where I do too. Actually, I've gotten to the point now where I don't go out at all. So yeah, I think looking at the timing, but yes, having some sort of alternative experience for people is an important thing.
Okay, we're going to add one more, maybe two, if you have something that hasn't been really asked yet. It's really burning at you, but I've got one more, two more at the most, and then we'll call it a day.
Thank you. Brandon, you said that you could do 25, 30, and so consecutive sermons, and I believe you. However, I really have enjoyed the I don't know what I want to call it,
the kind of team approach.
The team approach that we have had.
Sure.
So if you were to be our minister, which way would you go? Would you go for a senior minister, or would you go for more of the team approach that we have had now?
I would rely more on that team approach. I have wonderful ideas, wonderful things I can share with you on Sunday morning, and it's important that mine is not the only voice this community hears on a regular basis. I think we started kind of moving in that direction. Now, I can't necessarily say that every Sunday we would have a different speaker, because I think it's important to have consistent leadership up front. However, I could see where we would have maybe once a month we have Reverend Jan or Reverend Bob offers the lesson, or we have a guest speaker come in. I think that's an important part of continuing to grow as a community, is that you hear different voices. I had somebody ask me between the services if I was selected, how do Bob and I get along? And if Bob and I disagree, what's going to happen? Are we going to like have to put on boxing gloves in the middle of the... and I said, actually, I think it's great, the times when Bob and I disagree. Because even in unity, and you heard this during Fall Faith, Catherine Ponder's book does not agree with the book we studied for Fall Faith. It's important to hear different ideas, and so hearing a variety of speakers helps with that.
Hello, Brandon. My name is Mary Joy. You just spent 3 years in graduate art school, in ministerial, as a ministerial student, my understanding is that is a time when you're really stretched and you're called to grow. And I wonder if you could share a little bit about your growth in the last 3 years. Sure.
You know, the personal growth that happens at ministerial school, a lot of it happens in part thanks to a man named Robert Brummett. Robert teaches all of the self-awareness and the pastoral counseling classes. And Robert rips into you pretty good. You know, there are times where I would walk out of classes going, oh, that's why I'm terrified of conflict. It's because of that moment when I was younger and I stood up for something and got yelled at for so long. And now beyond anything else, I'm terrified of being yelled at. And so that's why I avoid conflict. So the growth that happens for me, it happened during those classes and during those moments where I had the one-on-ones with Robert, where I would be able to say something to him and he would go, okay, why do you do that? Well, I do that because I want people to like me. Well, why do you want them to like you? Well, and it would go on until I'd get down to the, well, I don't want to be yelled at. And he'd go, okay, there it is. So it not only was it those experiences, but then you put on top of that the opportunity that I had to work here full-time while I was going through those programs, and I was putting it right into practice. You know, one of the things we talked about in one of our classes was viewing the church as a family system, and seeing how each part was an integral part of the church. And I had to laugh. When I walked in for the first day of that class, I'd had an experience here where I wasn't feeling sure of myself, and I'd had a little bit of a conflict with somebody, and what I was doing was I was making it all about them. And I was, why did they do that to me? What a jerk to do something like that to me. And I walk into class, and the book that's sitting on the counter that all of the students have to read is Never Call Them Jerks. Thank you, God. So it does stretch you and grow you, but being able to be here has given me just such a wonderful experience to put it into practice.
Hi, Brandon. Dwight here. Full faith was sort of the buzzword with going deeper. And your sermon today had that aspect in it, too, of going deeper. Mm-hmm. What does that mean to you, and how would you do it?
For me, the idea of going deeper is exactly what I shared as the meaning of life. To me, when we go deeper, it's when we really begin to live and move our lives in the infinite, in the power and presence of God that moves in and through all of us. And so as we work towards that, you can't help but go deeper. For this congregation, one of the things that I would encourage you to do is to put into practice the things that are being taught. To accept the challenge that I gave you. I'm going to keep challenging you. Because it seems simple enough to just say, yeah, be the Christ. Everything you do, be the Christ. Be God. Be the presence of God. But to do it, to really do it, and to really put that into practice, that's how you go deeper. And so what I would hope to do is to continue to provide lessons that are going to both challenge you and reaffirm things for you and inspire you. And one of the teachers at Unity Institute that would say our job as ministers is to comfort the afflicted and to afflict the comfortable. And I would hope I do a whole lot of afflicting. Because that's how you're going to grow deeper, is you're going to stretch into those moments.
Brandon, on behalf of the congregation, thank you so much. Give you an idea of what's next. Your board of directors is going to meet a week from Tuesday. We went through 258 evaluation forms from last week. It looks like we've got at least that many now, so thank you. It absolutely reaffirms what we believe, the energy's here, the desire's here. We'll let you know what happens at that meeting and what's next. Thank you all for coming.